Welcome back to Dragon Army Books. My name is Dustin, and this video is special because it is the first readathon I've ever done. Now, okay, you can see in the annotation, I actually did my own readathon one day where for some reason I was like, you know what if I read the entire Hunger Games trilogy in 24 hours? It's all coming back to me. It was because that prequel was coming out, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I wanted, in preparation for that, wanted to go back through the original trilogy. And so I read those books in 24 hours, and I would not suggest doing so because it was a lot. But it was also a lot of fun because readathons are fun. This one was a lot slower paced, and it was with other people. Elliot Brooks from the channel Elliot Brooks put on a readathon called ACMC, which stands for Animal Companions and Mythical Creatures Readathon, where booktubers and other people just in the community could read books that have animal companions or mythical creatures and then do so with certain themes or genres. She made these bingo cards or magic cards where as long as you got a bingo or again magic in a single direction that you are entered to win. And I thought it would be fun. I too love animal companions and mythical creatures. I think my favorite animal companion is like some kind of wolf dog puppy. I'm not thinking of any in particular, or I'm actually thinking of many in particular. And then my favorite mythical creature is a dragon. Sue me, but you cannot beat mythical or magic. You cannot beat a dragon. Fire breathing, talking, they come in variety of forms, but I love dragons. But in the month of March, I was able to get magic on one of my cards. You can actually see here that I got the first column from top to bottom. I think I may have hit a few others as well. And I wanted to walk you through in this video the different books that I read to get my magic. My adult book was The Eye of the World. I actually read the first book in the Wheel of Time for the very first time, and it is a very adult-esque book with a lot of mythical creatures in there. So far, I do not believe there's an animal companion. Unless Perrin can be considered one. I think it's Perrin. Perrin has the yellow eyes now. That's all I'll say. Here's the thing. It has lots of shadow spawn, like the Trollocs. This is a very fantasy heavy book. Epic fantasy at its finest and most robust. So I'm not going to be able to pronounce all of these names correctly, but a lot of shadow spawn like the Trollocs, the Drakkar that would fly around in the sky. You've got a Nym called Green Man, which is a very creative name that shows up for a while. He's like some plant-like creature. And then if this even counts, which it doesn't, you have the Dragon Reborn, which is one of the three boys. I think I know who it is. So this is my first book in my magic lineup, and I did a full review on this book. You can check that out in the annotation above. My South American kind of culture book was Gods of Jade and Shadow. This was a book with a beautiful cover and a cool culture, kind of like Mayan deities, where a young girl accidentally wakes up the Mayan death god and then has to travel around with him to be able to reclaim pieces of his body to reform him, bring him back to his full power so he can assume his throne again. There's some romance thrown in there. To be honest, I didn't love the story much at all. Didn't care for the POV. Wasn't connected to the characters. Felt that the story was redundant. But that's neither here nor there because it did have some mythical creatures in it. Again, no animal companion, unfortunately, but we did have this massive Mayan underworld that we saw a few times. And in there and from there came these massive creatures like these giant owls and these skeletal birds. And at one time, I believe there was this like massive sea serpent that was crashing around down in the Mayan underworld. And so if nothing else in this story did it for me, that kind of glimpse at this underworld with these fantastical creatures was pretty cool. And then for my C slot, C-S-E-A slot, I had the House in the Cerulean Sea. This was and is, I'm still reading it at the recording of this video, a fantastical story that really doesn't know if it's for kids or adults, or it's probably for adults with kid-like hearts and imaginations, because it is very fairy tale-esque with a lot of moral lessons being taught, but it is so lighthearted and fun. The characters of this orphanage that our main character Linus travels to and spends some time with are all of the fantastical variety. You have got a female bearded garden gnome. You've got a pet wyvern that really has can communicate really just without words. You've got some forest sprites, and you've got this like this blob that this blob named Chauncey that has multiple appendages and heads that wants to be a bellhop when he gets older. Also, you've got a 6-year-old boy named Lucy, who his name, by the way, is short for his full name, which is Lucifer. He's the son of Satan. So you've got all of these fantastical mythical creatures, and it is a heartwarming story that I still don't know where I land at the time of this recording, but it's a lot of fun. Still no animal companion though. That is not true. Past Dustin, 30 seconds ago, Dustin, Linus Baker, our protagonist, has a pet cat, who so far is kind of unimportant to the story and is not as cool as a wolf dog. In these last 2 slots, to be honest, I started these books in February, finished them kind of right as February became March, so I'm including them. In the mental health slot, I got Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is another one of those kind of classic, modern day classic fantasy novels that I hadn't read. Finally came around to reading it, and there are some pet companions in this one. Are there mythical creatures? I don't recall. I don't think so. It's been almost a month now since I've read it, but there are a few dogs that are very important to the story and magic system. There's one dog in particular named Nosy that is best pup around, and as this young boy Fitz becomes and is trained to be an assassin and learns these magical abilities that he has, some of them relate to communicating with animals and feeling their feelings and emotions. As Fitz grows up and undergoes some difficult circumstances, he deals with a lot of mental health issues, like depression is one of them, where he just kind of stays glued to his bed for many days after something traumatic happens. I understand that as the series continues, mental health is a big part of what's going on here, but again, a dog named Nosy. That should be one of the short stories in the series, in my opinion. And then finally, for my African-inspired fantasy story, we've got The Fires of Vengeance by Evan Winter. This series, The Rage of Dragons and The Fires of Vengeance, the Burning Quartet, which it will eventually be, is a new favorite of mine. Absolutely love the series, love the battle montages, love Tao, our main character, and the road of revenge and vengeance that he is set on and all of the costs that come with that. But the 2 mythical creatures that come along in this story are demons and dragons. All sorts of demons that Tao and his friends battle in the underworld called Isiago, and then we've got dragons, of course, that some incredible BA women are able to summon that unleash the fires of hell out on their enemies and sometimes friends alike. These are some epic stories, and like I already said, you cannot go wrong with dragons. MAGIC, I got my magic, I got my bingo, so I'm in the drawing. It was a lot of fun to kind of tailor the books that I was reading in March to be able to complete this list. Most of these books were already books that I was going to read at some time. I just kind of bumped them up on my TBR to eventually get to them. The only one that I didn't know about before this readathon journey began was of Gods and Shadows, Gods of Jade and Shadows, which unfortunately was my least favorite to read in this last month. It was just repetitive. The POV was weird. I felt no attachment to the characters. But my most favorite to read was, of course, Fires of Vengeance, because like I said now for the 1000th time, dragons! This readathon was such an enjoyable experience. I've never before done kind of like a guided reading experience like this, so thank you so much, Elliot, for making this available for other booktubers to join and your viewers to join. Also, I will include in my notes the magic cards that Elliot created along with some of the rules. I'll include the links to those, so if you want to read like guided ACMC readathon, you won't be able to do it in the month of March because that's over now, unless you wait for March 2022, but I'll include those links down in the notes just in case you want to do that on your own time. Fingers crossed that I win the readathon so that Elliot has to buy me a book of my choice. I'm gonna make it a really nice leather-bound, expensive one, so just you wait. In the comments down below, let me know your favorite animal companion and your favorite mythical creature from all of fantasy and sci-fi literature. Would love to know those things down below. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch and like this video. If you haven't yet, click subscribe, join the Dragon Army, and we'll see you in the next one.